Yep. So I just want to see if their sound comes through now. What? You can? Good. Hi, welcome. Hope you're enjoying the show.
You go first. I graduated.
Hello, everybody. Please find your seats or stand, whatever you want to do. It's cool. We're pretty loosey-goosey here at Poets and Pints. Is everybody having a good time? Yes! Well, that's all that matters. So, tonight is an unusual show because I don't think, we might have time for some open mic, but for now I don't have a sign up just because I wasn't sure there'd be time. But also, we are here every third Wednesday, so the next one's going to be on May 18th. And it's special because Francine, who was sitting there, I don't know, she went somewhere, she's curating that show. So she put together a lineup of poets who will be here next month. And then on June 21st is our June show. So keep those in mind. We're here every month. Working our way towards our 100th show in September, which is amazing. So I'm not gonna dilly-dally too much here. I'm just gonna bring up our next poet because that's what you're all here to see. So Sonia Greenfield, who has books over there, so if you really enjoy the work, make sure you support the artist. And if you don't enjoy the work, buy a book anyway, it won't kill it. All right. Sonia Greenfield, they is the author of 2 new collections of poetry, All the Possible Histories from Riot in Your Throat, came out in December, and Helen of Troy is High AF, from Harbor Editions, that came out in January. She is the author of Let Down, An American Parable, and Boy with a Halo at the Farmer's Market. Her work has appeared in 2018 and 2010 Best American Poetry, Southern Review, Willow Springs, and elsewhere. She lives in Minneapolis, where she teaches at Normandale College, edits the Rise Up Review, and advocates for neurodiversity, and decentering of the cishet white homogeny. Hegemony. Jiminy. Shit! Anyway, everybody please put your hands together and welcome Sonia Greenfield.
Bring my beer right up on stage. That's all right.
Yes! Oh, throw that away, girl. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I'm going to start with my students. Well, actually, this is an ex-student of mine named Malaya Guerrier, and I had her in my composition class the first semester that we were back from the pandemic. And it was a really weird semester because everybody had masks on the whole semester. And I felt really off my game in the classroom because it just felt really difficult. And I didn't know, it was hard to read the room, right? But then I got an email from her at the end of the semester and she said, thank you so much for everything. And after your class, I really know now that I want to pursue a degree in creative writing.
I love it.
So, and she was actually she's one of the students in Chris's
Really?
class, Malaya. Yeah, I don't know.
I was thinking of her, but I was like, that's another one.
Yeah, no, it's Malaya. I love her.
I do too.
So this is her poem and it's called The Downpour. When the downpour comes and you're all alone, it never seems to stop. The ping, 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 and drip, 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 and splat, daddly dap constantly strafe you. You don't know why, though you learn at some point something like storm clouds gather, condensation grows, too great to hold it in any longer. Then it drips, pings, and splat daddles you in a barrage, melting the wicked witch inside you, or just dissolving whatever it is in you, so you come out cleansed or rejuvenated or gone. And though you've released and dissolved, let go and be gone, sometimes you still stand there without an umbrella, without puddle boots, without a boat, without a lighthouse, possibly lost, or simply waiting to be found, to be given shelter, to have the pings, drips, and splat daddles wiped off your face. So I'm going to read basically 4 of my own poems. And the first one is from All Possible Histories, and it's called "To the 5,000 YouTube viewers who gave the cancer survivor a thumbs down." Did you not like her voice? Its echo of sugar, the play in its tone? Was it the way cancer made her gangly, as some are when their bodies just want to be birds? Or was that thumb pointing down for cancer itself, the sinking suspicion that the woman on your screen will not outlive her myth? What is it about the anonymity of your phone glowing blue under the bridge where you live that compelled you to say no to a song about hope? Modernity, do you have a talent for cynicism? In every heart, is there a tiny Simon Cowell on his plush red throne, exhaling his jaded sigh? Who hurt you, stranger? Did a big brother beat all the feels from you? Did a woman once laugh when you said, "I love you"? Do you also say no to the puppies tipping over in his sleep? To the babies who boogie Gangnam Style? No to the pop-up symphony and its impromptu ode to joy? Who takes the time to say no to joy when it is offered for free? Have you never lost someone to a wasting sickness? Have you lost everyone to a wasting sickness? How much have you had to drink? And don't you think it will be okay? When do you shed your tears? At breakfast? Over tea? How are you lonely? What metastasizes in your spleen? What moving artifacts to surviving have you seen? What shadow grows in your bones? Does no song build a nest in your throat? So I was raised Catholic, and we used to get the penny saver. Many of you might remember. I don't know if they have penny savers here, but people would post ads in the penny saver with prayers to a variety of saints, and I particularly remember the prayers to Saint Anthony, whose job it is to find lost things. So this is called Prayer to Saint Anthony, patron saint of lost things, and it has an epigraph. Saint Anthony, who received from God the special power of restoring lost things, grant that I may find that which has been lost. Grant that I may find my mojo, misplaced in middle age and replaced with progressive lenses and a penchant for Sunday crosswords. How much mojo have you restored, and what does it look like? And is it usually in the couch cushions with the Apple TV remote? Tony, how many millions of earrings have you found since the beginning of Catholic time? A theoretical glimmering mountain of baubles that reach your cloud? Is it knobby with pearls and woven through with gold wires? You must manage one hell of a spreadsheet, patron saint of relief, of signs for missing cats, of hopeless pleading for new hymens.
I can't.
Have you any helpers, or does the nervous sweat bead unbidden on your pate? And do you wipe it with the hem of your brown robe? Do the voices clamor and clamor like cathedral bells ringing in your ears? Tony, do you cry when you can't find a boy because he already sits by your side, and the boy's mother keeps you up all night with her begging, but you are powerless to return anything besides ashen flesh? Do you search in such instances for your own mojo, convinced you're better off restoring heirloom brooches and fountain pens, better at bringing a corgi back from his wandering? Would you like to switch jobs with Francis and frolic for once with the lambs instead of just sending the lost ones home? On the news, I saw you bring a body back from Nam and saw how you reunited birth mother with daughter. We are always losing, Tony. Saint Anthony, who received from God the special power of restoring lost things. Where are all the socks, lighters, and wallets, the hair ties, lip balms, and iPhones? Do you keep collections to count in heaven, some calm in the careful numeration of unclaimed car keys? So I'm gonna read a poem from Helen of Troy, is high as fuck. All the poems are from the perspective of women in the Odyssey. And if you've read the Odyssey before, you know that it's very much about upholding the glories of warlike men. And then the women just kind of deal with the fallout of that. And I thought, well, somebody should give them a voice. And I'm like, well, why don't I give them a voice? But the poem I'm going to read is called Circe in the Age of Instagram. And if you'll recall from the Odyssey, Circe is the one who turned Odysseus's men to pigs. And just give you that reminder. Nothing is anachronism if you live forever, it says in my bio. I started with carefully composed shots of the island, sun filtered through olive grove and arbor, close-ups of hermit crabs hurrying their little conches across the sand. Every influencer knows what we go through to make labor look like love. 20 takes trying to get that thirst trap. Gently slopping the hogs, hair curled by afternoon heat, gorgeous in torn coveralls with my bright red bucket. Post it. How else to turn vengeance to magic and magic to commerce? Sometimes we're even the beneficiaries of serendipity, sun somehow netted behind a new sail arriving on shore, shot perfectly composed as the next set of sailors straggle into foreground. And post it. A girl must make the best of what she possesses. I share daily stories of how they squirm and tumble over each other, adorable montages of snouts snuffing the lens. I filter the ugly out of muddy trotters and mottled skin. I give them stupid names like Pegasus and Agamemnon, then satisfy every order, belly, shoulder, bacon, and loin. And I'm going to finish with a poem called Gwyneth Paltrow's Plocido. Now that I have your attention,
Yes, I'm done.
consider instead the tomato. So much like the texture of a pussy, if you've ever had the privilege to tongue one. The grab and weight of it, bright yellow or streaked through with rays of marmalade, she sends her squad to the farmer's market to weigh each heirloom for worthiness, each cupped and hummed over in the palm of an assistant's hand. Consider the hard flesh of the lesser specimen, how it is gassed pink with ethylene and stacked in the corner of the dollar store, or fed to kids collecting at the border the way sorters weed out the unsightliest of fruit. Consider the jade mines of Myanmar, the extraction of ore by men unspoken for, pickaxes tink tink against a hill that sometimes rolls its invaders under in an industry that makes miners into insects and makes you wonder whether, when another anthill falls, if any ants can be saved. Consider the slow process of refinement from earth to calloused hand, to cart, to plant, to polisher, to warehouse, to privileged twat gently squeezing the smooth nephrite egg to her pelvic floor. Consider Plato's allegory of the cave, and the cave smells of expensive candles. Consider Gwyneth Paltrow's pussy. We goad each other to delve its darkness like kids high on triple dog dares. Bring a flashlight and spelunk the cave, ringing with drips from stalactites to puddled ground. Can you hear how any echoing tweaks the bat's frequencies, and they stir the darkness sucked up to the ceiling? Rumor has it that when you make it in far enough, you can find the skeletons of those who lost their way. Their bones rattled by mysterious breezes, entirely unrelated to the winds of change.
You want to come up and talk about this Midwest poetry mashup thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ollie. Welcome. No, this is my thing. I don't know why I'm welcoming you, but this is, thanks. Yeah, so I am a poet in the Twin Cities. Yeah, thank you. And I'm running a poetry tournament that's happening next weekend. Oh my God. April 28th through 29th at Strike Theater. You all should come. You know, like, I'm part of the slam world, and I love this space, and I love slam spaces, and I think we would all be like great, great, great friends. And so come out, support, be a judge, have a drink, whatever you want. It'll be super fun. I learned how to make QR codes so you can scan those with your telephone. I heard. So that has all the information and everything. This next weekend, April 28th through 29th at Strike, Midwest Poetry Mashup, come hang out. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I need to get my phone out. Okay. Next. Brian Baumgart. He, him is the author of Poetry Collection Rules for Loving Right. That's available right over there. Well, really, you should talk to him, but if you want to see it, it's over there. And his poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction have appeared in a number of journals, including Thimble Literary Magazine, South Dakota Review, Big Muddy Spillway, Whale Road Review, and Signal Mountain Review, among others, as well as in the anthologies Rewilding, Poems for the Environment, and Working Stiff, and the stuff that was said, which you could pre-order now on the table. His poetry has been nominated for both Pushcart Prize and Best of the Nedgar Awards. Brian is an English professor and previously served as the director of creative writing at North Hennepin Community College. He was 2018 Artist in Residence at University of Minnesota Cedar Creek Ecological Science Reserve and currently coordinator for the Minnesota State Write Like Us program. He is the father of two teenagers, both of whom are absolutely ridiculous and terrifying. For more, go to brianbaumgart.wixsite.com/website. Everybody, please put your hands together for Brian Baumgart. Yeah, reading the web address, that's wonderful. So my first poem is called Gwyneth Paltrow's Pussy. It should be. So
Beautiful, beautiful folks here. I love this. I'm going to start off by reading a poem by a former student of mine. I'm going to give a little intro to her. Her name is Jamie Randall. Some of you might know her. She actually started as a composition student of mine at community college, and it was a very, very small class that she was in with me, and we had to deal with this fucking terrible white supremacist misogynist in the class who kept yelling at me every week.
Been there.
For a little while until he was gone. Jamie was one of those wonderful, wonderful, wonderful students that did everything really, really well, but also made me a better teacher because she kept telling me, like, why are you doing what you're doing, like, over and over again, but in a good way. So I kept thinking, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I learned a lot more about teaching. I learned a lot more about writing from Jamie. Jamie went on to earn an Associate of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from North Hennepin, and then went on to get a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Augsburg, and then went on to get a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Augsburg as well. So she has kept going with the creative writing. I note that Jamie is an enrolled member of the Red Cliff Band of Ojibwe. Before I read this poem. It's called Adventures of Diner Indian and the Lightkeeper. The boy handed it to me, a small painted portrait of Indian he had pulled off the wall of a diner. He said it made him think of me, probably because I'm the only Indian he knows. I am grateful that one more diner portrait Indian has been freed. I imagine he has freed himself, crawled out of the frame and down onto the table he was watching over, moccasins landing in someone else's eggs over easy, enjoying the squishy feeling and the look of horror on the diner's eyes. Eggs owner is mad as he realizes this diner Indian has just walked off with his egg yolk, walking a trail across the tile floor. Trail of yolks, trail of uneaten breakfasts. Near the door, he sees a rocky landscape on stretched canvas. On a cliff overlooking a turbulent lake, a small lighthouse shines its beam. Diner Indian calls to the lightkeeper, shouting to get his attention. A small figure begins to descend the rocky cliff, increasing in size as he reaches the foreground. The lightkeeper reaches for the hand of Diner Indian and slowly makes his way down. Slick boots drip on the tile, puddle around moccasins and egg yolk. And now I'll read some of my shitty poems. No, just kidding. I'm going to read just a few poems, and one of them that I'm going to read, or two of them that I'm going to read, are from this series that I'm working on right now that are called My Songs for Terrorists. Now, I want to note that, one, that these are essentially epistles, but also for terrorists, this is anyone who uses violence or hate to instill fear. So that's how I'm defining terrorists here. And this is part of the reason why I'm reading these tonight, in addition to me writing this really long series of them, is that it deals with a lot with school shooters, which has been a significant part of the writing that I've done over the last several years. And the title, right, it's My Songs for Terrorists. Every poem is titled the same, but with a number afterward. Actually comes from a poet friend of mine, Jenny Young Kropp, who had been doing a Zoom reading during the pandemic. And she had said, my sonnets were terrible, when she was referring to writing sonnets. And the auto transcription just fucked it up. So, and it said, My Songs for Terrorists, which is how I came up with the title for this series.
It is.
All right, so My Songs for Terrorists, number 23. When you were in love, soiled socks left on the floor like past lovers don't pile up. You clean, you turn fresh honey from stings to cream, the mouthfeel just right. And if I'm having trouble explaining love, it's because your eyes are speaking death, and all teeth are sharper than razor blades, and there's nothing I'd rather do then keep speaking of love and honey and old laundry that's so easy to forget when you're holding your lover close, sharing breath and sweet pastries, maybe a cup of milky tea or coffee, its warmth spreading swifter than blood from a head wound. And here we are again.
And here we are. Right.
Yeah, I'm a bummer. All right, my songs for terrorists, number 36. So yes, these are all sonnets too. It's clear that on every Friday you've forgotten to let your dog greet you at the door, tongue lashed side to side, mouth split as if laughing, because you hold your own mouth tight, a trampoline of fury. But if only you'd release just once, stroke his furry back with fingertips. If only you'd unholster your pistol and drop its weight from your hips, you'd feel your hips quiver as easily as the pup jittering for one more touch, one more high-pitched jumble of love. Are you a good boy? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. But you've walked past. Canine, ignored, or non-existent, and the weight remains clenched to your hips, your tongue, because you've forgotten. All right, now I generally write shorter poems, these kind of one-pagey type things. When I write my poetry, when I write longer things, I tend to write prose. I'm a fiction writer and essayist as well. Yes. But while I was thinking about tonight and this idea of having poets who are teachers coming together, I started working on this poem. And I had also been working on, as a teacher, I'm regularly asked to write, what is your philosophy of teaching? These things pop up all the time, whether it's in academic stuff or in professional development, blah, 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 bullshit. Which I've got those bullshit ones too. But I decided to write a philosophy of teaching as a poem for our crowd tonight, and because I think it's important. So this poem is called How to Teach English Composition at a Community College Near Minneapolis, or How I Teach English Composition at a Community College teach English Composition at a Community College near Minneapolis, or How I Dream I Teach English Composition at a Community College near Minneapolis. Imagine that your grandmother is in the back row, knitting sweaters for each of the students whose own grandmothers have blinked out of this world. And I say this even though my own grandmothers have blinked out of this world and never touched a knitting needle, except in those moments they spent on the floor of the closet, wondering if he was going to come again, and if the knitting needle could seal the cuts beyond the bruises, or just keep him back a little longer. But don't worry, because even my grandmothers are there, knitting sweaters for students who bury caution in the snowdrifts to come to class. And once you're done imagining grandmothers, know it's time to greet your students with hands out, hands back, touching, not touching, embracing, distancing. But whatever way you do this, be sure to read all the signs that say if their histories of touch bring you in or hold you out, and know that they dictate what is okay. Okay? If you know their mystery, know you have become community. Speak their names. Speak their names in echoes of the quake inside their voices. I am Gail. I am Rashid. I am Marlon. I am Trinity. I am Bisan. I am Riley. I am Fatima. I am Nathan. I am Jazzy. I am Chi. I am Camila. I am Chua. I am Iman. I am. I am. Let them tell their stories. Forget that. Let them tell their own stories. Let them tell their own nerdy stories. Let them tell them their own queer-ass stories. Let them tell their own stories in which they've been broken by the world around them. Let them tell their own stories in which they felt joy in the living and the telling. Let them know that grades are not an assessment of their stories, of their lives, of themselves. And even though they won't believe you because they've been graded on who they are their entire lives, and you're just some wall of academia standing or sitting in front of them, and even though you want to hold them and convince them that they are loved, know that grades are rewards or punishment, and the only glory is telling our fucking beautiful stories of pain and joy and all that surrounds us. So make sure you tell your own stories. Your own nerdy, queer-ass stories. Like the one when you were 7 years old and your friends were riding their big wheels across the street and you never had a big wheel. And even though you weren't ever suffering for food, you felt that big wheels were a sign of success or that you'd made it in this world. So you went to cross that street looking both ways because that's what you were taught. But looking both ways wasn't enough because some car still crashed into the side of your 7-year-old body and tossed you through the air onto your skull. And this is when you show them the scar on the back of your head to say, yes, I'm telling you the truth, and I have the scars to prove it. And perhaps at this point, as you're telling the story, your limp comes back, left leg stiff, a little jacked up, and you're pacing, but not like a tiger in a cage that's too easy, too aggressive, but like a pet dog who has to pee and no one is opening the door. And you let your students know that you survived, that you're okay, that you went from head injury to college professor, and maybe some of them will get this message, but most will wonder what's next. So you tell them you woke up dizzy and spinning, no pain, no nothing, and that emergency folks were working on you, telling you you'd be okay, but you started crying. Not for fear of your injuries, but because those emergency folks were cutting off your best pair of red sweatpants that you love just so much, and because you didn't want all your neighbors and your friends with their fucking big wheels to see your underwear. Say fucking big wheels. Say that your story has a lot more to it, like a broken femur and bed recovery and an additional scar on your mother's leg, even if that doesn't make sense. Say that all our stories have a lot more to them, and that this is simply a class. And even if the writing is fucking brilliant, it still won't encompass everything and all that they are. Say fucking brilliant, because they're fucking brilliant. Tell them this. Don't ever forget that Fatima and Rashid and Jazzy and Trinity and Chua and Nathan are all fucking brilliant. They are light. Imagine your grandmother in the back row clapping for you because you can't forget that you too are brilliant, that you are light. When a student falls asleep in class, let them sleep. It might be the only sleep they've gotten this week. When a student cries in class, let them cry. It might be the only safe place to cry this life. When a student says they don't get the lesson, or your nerdy queer-ass stories, tell them it's okay, there will be plenty more. Offer them plenty more. Ask them what language they live in. Ask them if their histories are buried inside their lungs or their gut. Ask them how many breaths they take when they're afraid of failing. Ask them to describe the music that plays in their minds and mouths when they feel seen. Listen to their answers if they choose to share them, because this is the birth of magic. Do not grade them on their magic. I've made the mistake of grading their magic. You'll make the mistake of grading their magic. Remember that writing is more than paragraphs. Writing wears our skin and dances to music that hasn't been performed yet. It screams into canyons carved by billions of years of planets cracking wide. Show them how to scream and dance. They already know how to wear their own skin, so don't pretend you know that skin is both real and imaginary, or that everything lends itself to literary analysis, because sometimes a pen is just a pen, skin is just skin, and an absence is just absence. If you feel them slipping, wink and say, you have the real reason for this class. And that it's just around the corner, just under the cover page, just on the palm side of their hands. When they look at the lines and crevices and scars and blisters and that one spot of darker or lighter skin they've been concerned about since they can remember, tell them language is a trick. The real reason you teach this class is for magic words. to learn the spells of communication, of manipulation, and you want them to discover the language they can use to cast spells on their readers, to bring them to understanding and love and knowledge of just who they are, which means they can understand just who they are, which is magic all on its own. And when they turn away and mutter that their spells are bad English, tell them the second secret. Others cast spells too, and the counter spells work best in bad English. Tell them about the grandmothers and their fucking brilliant names and the magic of fucking big wheels, why grading is an exercise in cruelty, and that your limp has healed, and that you don't really know what you're doing, but you're doing it the best you can, and that their stories are beauty, that they are beauty, that this thing you're all doing together is a little jacked up, but it's fucking beautiful.
One more time for Brian. So a couple other books that are for sale tonight, if you want to pick one up, is Upon Waking is a book that the League of Minnesota Poets put out that is stories from people who experienced abuse. Different poets put together this anthology. These are both $15. This, After the Equinox, is from the last time we did a Cracked Walnut Literary Festival, which we are doing again in October. So what is that? Well, we're going to have a bunch of venues lined up through the course of October. So there's going to be somewhere between 10 and 15 shows that month, this being one of them. And we're going to have different people on all over the place, all over town. So it's not just Minneapolis. It'll be some in St. Paul, up in the northern suburbs. We're trying to get south. We're trying to do all kinds of stuff. So, but then we try to put together a little book about it. Now, there's also a Cracked Walnut anthology that's coming out. So there's just books all over the place. That being said, let's bring up another poet. I'm a super good host because I always have stuff ready. All right. Our next poet is Francine Conley. Francine writes, crafts, and performs one-woman multimedia plays and generally explores all kinds of wonder in art, nature, and the undersides of life. Please put your hands together for Francine Conley.
Did I send you that?
Yeah,
No recollection.
that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
True that. So I, as a true teacher, I have been teaching all day.
I used to know the bottom one.
The bottom,
Yeah, that
what
one.
do I do?
You pull the lever up.
What the hell?
There's a lever. Yeah, just pull it up.
Oh,
Oh, hey,
look at that. That's
There you go.
exciting.
you pulled the
So-
top one, it would have just came out.
Okay. So I am positively exhausted, so forgive me in advance. I've been teaching all the way up to coming here, online and in person. And I have lots of thoughts, but I want to say thank you to the previous readers. I can't see your faces in this light, but it was delightful to hear your words, to have your spirit, to know that we are educators.
Ow.
A word, yeah. And I have been thinking about my students all day because I had to select some winning pieces for tomorrow, a prize for a young person. They are going to win like $2,000 for a piece called Mother Hunger, which I've just been thinking about right up to coming here. I'm going to read just a few, since I was giving advice to my students today: be bright, be brief, be gone, about how to present. And so I'm reading a few, and I'm reading mine, and if I have time and I have feeling, I'm going to read one from a mentor friend whose kids are friend with my kid, if I have time to do that, but I don't know if I will. So I'm going to start with one of mine from a book that's up there on the table that I haven't read from. I've been very quiet. I've not been living in the United States, so my English is my second language, my third language, my fourth language. So this is a book in English, the language that I learned to play in. It's called Eve's Dilemma. And I do a lot of ekphrasis, how do you say? Ekphrastic poems, which are basically poems where you look at and through art. I love art. This is called Eve's Dilemma. And it's based on Adam and Eve. It's an anonymous painting from 1510. And I wasn't raised anything, so don't worry, I'm not Catholic. Suppose the garden mound upon which she stumbled, stunned as a revenant, was smut. Suppose the glass window through which I saw myself as a passenger in a car that sped along the lake's rocky shore was smudged. Suppose, like Eve, I couldn't discern where we were headed, but the night convinced because it was dark and without stars. Sorrow wailed from our speakers, or maybe ecstasy. Suppose it was our hunger that made me think of her as I reached inside a bag and offered what my fingers found by feeling, a tiny apple, a gift we rolled back and forth between our cupped hands, your bite overlapped with mine as the sweetness of taste diminished. Suppose the teeth marks you left in my skin by a fire that same night were those on the apple Eve dared. Maybe the blithe look on her face was the languished one I felt in me after we devoured what we could. Eve's dilemma is not simple. She sees what she wants, wonders how far to reach into the thicket for a damn red speck ensnared by leaves made greener by distance. Should she keen? Should she wonder how every little thing that grows in us lies under the sun? Like her, I know ruin. I know when the apple slipped from our hands, we bit into more than fruit, that the taste of any story changes in time, can be reduced to a memory buzzing with flies. Suppose the apple was rotten before our first bite. Suppose Eve didn't understand the order of loss or her own sweetness, and that insects love the infection of sugar. Suppose the story starts here, with the core we tossed out the window and into a night that swallowed the stray seed that grows inside Eve now, like a riot. Okay. So Pussy inspired me.
Right.
Not
Me
Gwen,
too.
not Gwyneth, Gwen Paltrow's Pussy. A different kind of pussy.
Just pussy in general?
Just a different kind of pussy,
Oh.
but you'll see. Just the sound of it made me think of this poem. This is called Stray. Not to do with the pussy. Or maybe so, I don't know. But Stray. I was born open-mouthed. My mother called me fat girl, the year my father took so many plump lovers we lost count. She measured each one against the diet she pared down to 1/2 English muffin a day. After breakfast, she'd quit the table, announce, "I'm going to walk the dog." We didn't own a dog. So with her hand holding an imaginary leash, my mother withdrew into the budding hollow of our yard. Summers, our windows half open, I listened to her vomit into a bush, though bush made me think of vaginas, like eating made my mother imagine my father fucking women she never saw. After heaving, she snaked her way back to the porch and called out to a stray cat. Her bony fingers tickled the air and she yelled in a shrill German accent, "Here, pussy! Come, pussy!" I pressed my face against the screen and watched her, body winnowed to a sickle, lean over the purring one who, yes, always came back. Such a nice pussy. By then, my father served me seconds or thirds. "You give her too much," she said. I swallowed all of it. The day the stray vanished, my mother asked in confidence if my father killed her. "No," I replied, looking at him. "Pussy left. She was starving. Starving. Okay, how much time? Where's Tony?
Right here.
Okay, just a couple of minutes?
You're golden.
Okay.
Tell people about your book that you're reading from.
Oh, right. So this is a book that was published right at the brink of the pandemic, What Sweetness from Salt. So I'm one of those poets who didn't get the legs that they could get with touring readings when everything was shut down, shut in, shut down.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. And I had a wonderful turnout at, oh gosh, I'm
The place on.
yeah, it's been a long day. Well, you know, I'm Minnehaha.
No.
Moon Palace?
Moon Palace.
Moon Palace, thank you,
That's what
Moon
it's
Palace,
called.
which I adore. And then I had some readings overseas where I've been living. So I'm back here and it feels very strange to be here, but it's wonderful also. So this one is because of my student who did Mother Hunger, and it's a short story, so I couldn't do it justice, but they will be awarded tomorrow. And this one's called
Ow.
The Destruction of the Mother, which is something I think about, complexity of motherhood. I draw a lot from paintings and art, like I said. It's not necessarily my life, so please don't never mistake poetry for truth. So this one is after the sculptor Louise Bourgeois Shiro and Paolo Uccello's The Virgin of the Child. So this is called The Destruction of the Mother, and it's a little longer, but it won't go past my time. Okay. I am alone in my room when I receive a postcard of Uccello's Virgin and Child. On the back, a scrawled note in the best of my mother's voice. I'm sorry to hear things have been a little tough. We're at the beach. I'm well. So are the dogs. In Dublin's National Gallery, I search for the painting. I flew here to see the Virgin take hold of the child. When I was young, my mother brought me to see Louise Bourgeois' The Destruction of the Father, a sculpture that tells a story of her own father and his ongoing affair with the family's nanny. In a small case, egg silhouettes rest on a bed. Bourgeois loved plaster and latex because she could cast liquid and let it harden into shapes. A bed or a table like a bed. Like the bedroom I snuck into to watch my father and his lovers sleep, thinking, I see you. We make love, are born, and die in a bed, says Louise Bourgeois. She found a frame for suffering in a table. I think less of the father and more of the one missing, the mother who, although absent, receives the love of the father, gives birth to a child she would rather not hold, and another she wants to hold, who wants nothing of her, and a third who dies before she can name it. I don't believe in childhood, my mother said to me once. We're walking along the shoreline, my ears beholden to the ocean, the reliable sequence of waves, when my mother asks, without asking, I've not heard from my son in a year. I must not reply directly, for it's not of him, but the world she cares to know more of, the urge to dump waste, ditch, and slight living creatures. She's most at ease near the ocean, though troubled by dunes and their diminishing. People are killing this world, she shrieks, pointing to the banks overcome by the swell, flotsam dotted sand, her streaked hair flailing in the wind, body kneeled to prayer as she hefts steaming puds of dog shit into recycled blue bags. At dinner, we were obedient, but I thought it was droll as a child to be called the children. Possessives are vulgar, she added. What are we going to do with the children? Later, she bought a third dog and named her Bella Donna, to replace the woman my father left her for, or the child she miscarried soon after. On the beach, I study her crooked profile set against dunes, 3 limp leashes in hand, stranded jellyfish, bulbous shapes in the sand that recall Louise Bourgeois. Ocean foam swirls around our ankles. I don't know, in a few weeks, I too will miscarry a baby inside me before I leave her for good. Come here, Bella, she shouts in a voice swallowed by winds. But what Bella doesn't obey, damn dog. I do not pretend to know this mother. When I find Uccello, the plaque reads, a motionless Madonna. But the child looks as if she wants to leap out of the frame, or the mother wants to throw her child into the arms of any observer. There's almost no beach left. Where sands were plentiful, there is now a gulch. I want to start a letter. Dear so-and-so, no doubt things are a little tough, the casual horror of dunes. It's nonsense, really, this virgin and child. And now that she and I are perfectly apart, I imagine her dogs as the happiest in the world, trampling on dwindled dunes, residual grasses, their slapdash paws gone adrift, coated in mud. The ocean is swelling, whether we want it or not. And when it's all eroded, when there's nothing natural left, people will talk wildly about the destruction, about the beauty of a mother undone. I'll leave it at that. Oh, well, you might help me with that, because I'm a little off kilter today. So May 17,
May 18th.
May 18, Wednesday, May
Yeah.
17.
Is it 17?
I'm pretty sure. It's a Wednesday, and I'm hosting a wonderful gaggle of poets and writers. Catherine Savage, Juliet Patterson, Susan Nees,
Catherine Kaiser.
Patrick Worrell, Catherine Kaiser, more.
And I think that's it.
Yeah, wonderful people I haven't seen in like 4 years, so it's wonderful.
I haven't seen most of those people in a long time.
Yep, anyway, and I was gonna read ZZ Packer because she's a good friend, but I'm not gonna do it tonight. It's too long, okay?
Okay, thank
Okay.
you for being here.
Bye.
Good seeing everybody. All right. Now, our final featured poet of the evening, Douglas Kearney. Is it Kearney? Yeah. Okay, good. I should have, I'm such a good host that I didn't ask first. Douglas Kearney has published 7 collections, including Optic Subwoof, the 2022 Griffin Prize winning show, Buck Studies, and winner of the Theodore Rothke Memorial Poetry Award, the Clint Firecracker Award for Poetry, and the California Book Award Silver Medalist for Poetry. Enormous, I don't know how to say it. Philip calls Kearney's collection of libretti Someone Took They Tongues, a seismic polyphonic mashup. Kearney's Mess and was a small press distribution handpicked selection that Publishers Weekly called an extraordinary book. Wire magazine called Fodder. Your agent sent this over, so sorry about this. Live album featuring Kearney and a frequent collaborator, Val Inc. Brilliant. Kearney is the 2021 recipient of Opera America's Campbell Opera Librettist Prize. This is the hardest one I ever read, I'm sorry. Created and generously funded by the librettist lyricist Mark Campbell. His operas include, I don't know Mark stuff. Trumley Award for Poetry Residency Fellowships from Cave Canem, the Rauschenberg Foundation, and others. Born in Brooklyn, raised in Altadena, California, Kearney teaches creative writing at the University of Minnesota here in the Twin Cities. Lives in St. Paul with his family, and now is here to do poetry for you. Everybody put your hands together.
Hey y'all, thanks for staying. And thanks everybody who's read before me and all of that. I'm really excited about reading some work from a student, some stuff inspired by students, that kind of thing. So awesome. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read the title poem show, because this title poem came from an exercise that I have in the class that I teach, where all the students create new poetry forms, new poetic forms from scratch. And everybody in the classroom writes a poem in one of those forms. And it's awesome to see what the people come up with. This poem is called A Torsion, which is kind of like a sestina, and you know, we've been throwing some frass. Yeah. Sestina is like if you've ever played the basketball game horse, you know, where like it was like even like jacks or something like that. Like so, like sestinas like madrigals like flexing on each other and shit. Like 6 alternating words in different orders and an envoy at the end, 39 lines, like that shit. Mom spaghetti, you know, that kind of a moment. So this is a torsion is like a sestina, but the sequence has been modified based on lace weaving patterns because Indigo Weller's grandfather, I believe, worked in a lace weaving factory. All right, cool. Show. Some need some body or more to ape sweat on some site. Bloody pearl or dirty spit, hopped up for to show who gets eaten. Rig body up, bow bow to breeze a laced jig, and sway to Grig's good fiddling. Pine deep dusk, a spot where stood body. Thus they clap when I'm out bonk, jig up the lectern, bow to say it's all good. We gathered, withstood the bends of dives deeper, darker. They clap as I get down. Sweat highlights my body. How meats dyed bloody look fresher for showing. I got deep spit out my mouth, a rich red brine, bloody melon. No sweat, no joking. Nobody knows the trouble. Rig full of days. So I fix this mess. Spit in tragedy's good eye. This one's called Chick. Gobblers then bow housefully. They clap, being misunderstood. Hang no tie or deep, make my tongue a bow. What's the gift? My good songbox, the gift. Chick gold nickels from deep down my craw. They clap. I so jolly stood on that bank, body picked over blood. Rato Braxton sweat, brow syndrome spit out of sax bell. Rig on a grocer's show of fields for show. Sweat equals work, bloody ink pot of body. I stay nipped in show, never run dry. Rig rustly, I spit out stress feet. Lines jig, ha 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 ha. Good one that I is. How about deep but not out? Stood shining dim. They clap, or waves slapping hulls. Deep don't mean sunken. Goods not yummy, right? Bow, blanched with foam, jigs. This one's called they clap. Barrow, so much deep ends upon dead niggas. Stood I on that bloody rise of sweet body. There you is too. Sweat, it lets they clap, right? Some ass post spit toe lip. I said show. I feel like I was given permission to read a world premiere. It might be fucked up, so like just it's the first time. We'll see what it is. All right, this poem is called "No One Needs This Dick Everywhere." No one needs this dick everywhere. I know, so I get to hold this dick as I know where it goes. I know, for example, that this dick belongs in some places and it don't, so I get to hold this dick. This dick is dick, but when I mean to look hard and swaggy, I call it this because no one needs this dick everywhere being my dick. So I get to hold this dick as I know where it goes. I am interdependent in knowing where this dick goes, this rhizomatic dick. This rhizomatic dick I have helped polarding. I am assisted by a network of strange bedfellows. Bedfellows, I get to hold this dick as I can hold bedfellows and bedfellows. See, now I get to hold this dick. Holding this dick, I am privileged to hold this dick is my dick, especially looking hard and swaggy as fuck. I know where this dick goes. I ask questions. Because I ask, I know I get to hold this dick. Some bedfellows don't like making inquiries. They say they know. They're strange bedfellows. We chop it up about this dick. They don't know, but they do. They chop it up together in their separate beds. Chopping. I get to hold this dick because I ask. They tell me where it goes. I know where it goes. Yes. It goes into yes. Only yes. The bedfellows have agreed. It goes into yes, though they know each other's yes or no to which yeses it goes. I hold this dick because I know where it goes. This rhizomatic dick trimmed into an arrow like one way. Topiary, this dick I get to hold goes one way, so I get to hold it, a privilege. The bedfellows disagree to agree on any one way, still I get to hold it if it goes the right way. No, I'm not unhappy because I get to hold this dick. Lucky me, I get to hold this dick as long as hard and swaggy as fuck. This dick, as long as I stick to the places this dick belongs, I get to hold it. I'm not unhappy because I get to hold this dick as long as I know no one needs this dick everywhere. Scepter. All right, this one might be world premiere, but it might only have been read once other place. I mean to be sex positive, but was in 86 a sixth grader. I don't know how many people understand like how Gen X and sex positivity kind of have this like knife fight, like you get videos, kind of like, like that. That's just happening like that. But this is, I mean to be sex positive, but was in 86, a sixth grader. I was taught good. Knew my head up bod, set to bushwhack my future on some scant feel good. I could get some one ruined by cum, feel me? Hell had shit on jump, scared PSAs with sixth grade AIDS pedagogy, God. TV cahooted with pamphlets. After school, every slung dick soon came to know a Brenda. Every cop got ghosts, Ray every guy. Soda Spot, Kedzad, NES Duck Hunt. And now back to where the zipper, we learned, was best up as palms and surrender. Reader, with each letter, here, know I lived. I'm gonna read a poem from my student, because my student is dope. My students are dope. This is a poem by Nen Ramirez, and this is called Piojosa. It's hard to forget the sound of a louse, exoskeleton cracking between your thumbnails and gushing its blood, your blood so brazenly over your palm. My abuelito says that you aren't really Mexican-American until you've had piojos. My mother says you aren't really Mexican-American until you can't get rid of piojos. You aren't until you are baking and melting the synthetic fibers of your favorite sweaters in the dryer, or sleeping with the scalp smothered in mayonnaise, or olive oil, or vinegar, or until you can't tell if you are killing the pests or marinating them to perfection. You aren't really Mexican-American until you've given up and loved the beast that's sucking you dry. Woo! Woo! Nen Ramirez, y'all. I mean, it's always hard, like, you want to pick up all your students, but tonight that's for Nen Ramirez. All right, and finally, I'm going to end with a poem that has something to do with me getting taught shit. And I learned a lot for this poem from the late writer Akilah Oliver and the currently living theorist L.H. Stallings. From Akilah Oliver, I learned something about a kind of a very short, punctuated, like, not a fragment, but like just a short, like, sentence, like punch. And like, I kind of feel like in some ways those sentences kind of remind me of like verses in trap. So I guess Akilah Oliver inspired trap. I don't know. And L.H. Stallings had this presentation about the Middle Passage, which was that old work studies program that people from the African diaspora got put into. Well, actually, people from Africa got put into to become a diaspora and eventually get bouncing cars. So I guess it worked out. But she was comparing the Middle Passage to, like, kind of like an ontological, don't make me define that, galactic war. Right? So anyway, I say right like that, and then I leave that on you to be like, yeah, right. She explained it much better than I did, but I don't have much time. Eros is it's a punt. Okay, so like it's eros, right? Like like the god of love, the Roman god. But there's E-R-R, like an error. What? Suitcase words. I refuse to say portmanteau correctly because I'm a patriot. All right, Eros. The whole premise is flawed. The hull a wood prophylactic for aquatic wood. Can't you feel the motion of the ocean? We sing in millions of miles. We go deep and sleepless, except to solve someone's wet dream. We are and we is grinding. I'll coin grind. Won't Google that for fear I've made nothing. I'm not afraid of nothing except making it. I don't want to conjure rats, but they're everywhere. When I nibble on my beloved's neck, how deep in her is sleep? Do you remember when we fell in? All the mid-tempos tell us ride. Can't you feel the motion? All the slow jams call us to grind. We grind. All the crunk slaps are fucking slavers. Tell me what to do. This isn't about history. My junk bounces support me even when I look over my shoulder. I will not conjure chains, but maybe the fuzzy kind from this sex shop. By chains, I mean cuffs. I'm not fuzzy about what chains are. This isn't about history. Outside, the ocean soaks the ship's wood on its progress. Whack, whack, whack. That's a wet-ass problem. Fat, fat, fat is the sound of hacked skin. Any doc about slave ships, a leaked sex tape. Any such sex tape, probably a snuff flick. The problem's not the wetness, all you fretting sexist, the Nifunu canoe exists. It's that the erotic isn't mine. As in nigga, as in arrows ain't my god. As in I didn't dream of girl baby on the loo too. Slippery. The next wave gets me wet. This isn't about the future. Killing some black mouths is murder. Murdering some black mouths is stabbing. Stabbing in some black mouths is pitching. Can't you feel the motion of the ocean? Swells pitching the boat. Set a course for adventure. Sweetest reward. I'm trying to get my genitals in order. They're down here in Ordor. Some of it's mine. This shit isn't strange. Packed in tight. Somebody says, get it up. I'm next on deck to jump to. I drop and give him 20. My man don't like me letting myself go. Slap, slap, slap. Bend over to the front. Slap, slap, slap. Touch your toes. Slap, slap, slap. Get low. I'll go down to the hull. Kettle at dinner. I'm an hors d'oeuvre and a little something sexy will get slipped on in this romantic darkness. I am the dessert. Insert entendre before you come to consciousness. Can't say consummate without consume. We're grinded down to coin. They reach into their pockets and linger till they flip. The money shot, the rats on my face. If I holler, raps in some black mouth. It's too dim to know whose name I better say. A fetish floats a boat. God, ships is christened in his. Won't pray to that or pray to that. Cruise, I can't trust the mouth that spits me out to kiss me, right? Some fuckery. Goddamn infants want to screw everybody. This isn't about history.
We can come for nothing. Yes, I was going to do one more time now.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then you come back up. Because I have the obligatory poem about poetry in this book. So I thought it'd be a good way to end the show. I hope it is. Anywho, so this one's by me. It's called A Life with Poetry. There are so many times when life is thought in the way of poetry. Metaphors are water to drink. Similes are like the rooms where I live. They're not always great, but they're home. Each breeze has an air of something greater, as though I may elevate you, me, literarily. I write these thoughts down for your consumption. You look like you needed to eat. So here, let me share this with you. These tercets on my tongue, these free verse phrases plucked and peeled by frantic fingers. They're stanzas enough for all of us. We say grace, and it sounds like an agreement. Can't we all appreciate a little alliteration? Don't we all want to go to bed beside the words that remind us we are real? Don't we want to wake up to the ideas that light our day, make us understand that the night isn't evil? It's where sonnets are softened, turned into paintings of people that could only have been understood through characters on the page. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but with poetry, there's no shortage of words. We have found the economy of speech, and we present it to you in front of microphones no one paid to see, and books no one cared to buy, and in parks, where if one person heard that the process had purpose, then it had substance.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming out. And thank you to all of the readers and all of their students whose work we also got to hear tonight. Happy National Poetry Month. That's right, it's our big month to shine. So we hope to see you next month and future months. Every third Wednesday, we're here, right? I'm not always here for me.
You should be, though.
I'm often here, but yeah, we're here. It's always free. There's always great poetry. There's usually an open mic, so come and bring something to read and sign up. We've got the anthology that you can order. It's got the work of people who have read on this show. So if you liked what you heard tonight, you probably will like this book. The odds are very good. So yeah, I think that's all I got. Cody?
Yeah. It's just one more thing on the book too. There is a special poem that opens the book that the late Mike Finley wrote specifically for Poets and Pints. So it's very honoring, and it's in the book. And I will thank specifically tonight, one, my co-host, Katie Vagnino. Everybody put their hands together. Ashley Cardona. Joyce Lee. Sonia Greenfield. Baumgart. Francine Conley. And Douglas Kearney. And Pam Whitfield. Holy shit! You know what? You're supposed to be John by now. I know. And I'm not saying that because I'm kicking her out. It's because she had like an email like, it's very far where I live. Is it cool if I go first? I'm like, yeah, sure, go first. Let's go.
Tell him what you did with my last name, because I love it.
I called her Pam Whitfield.
Why did you do that?
It was not, I did not say it. I typed it too fast. I typed it too fast. It said Pam Whitfield. And then I was like, oh shit, sorry. It's Pam Whitfield. But now she's going to tell her students that's her name just to scare the shit out of them. And that's pretty cool. So I did that. Students, you're welcome. And I'm not a teacher. I'm like the one up here that's not a teacher. So thank you for everybody who is a teacher of poetry and of anything else. I appreciate you in the world. Thank you for being here. We do need to be out of here by 10, but we have a little time to socialize. So please, please, please buy some books. Talk to people, take some cards that are on the table. If you know anybody who's a poet, we don't have an audition system here. You simply sign up and we put you on at some point. There's a little bit of a queue though, I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, thank you so much everybody. Have a wonderful night. This has been Poets and Pints number 95. I'm Tony, good to see you.